Good evening. It is 9 o'clock on the East Coast, and I'm meteorologist Melissa Nord in for Chris Holcomb tonight, talking about your live weather update here on 11 Alive Plus and our 24/7 Weather Impact channel. And boy, what a great start to the week. You just missed it about 10 minutes ago, the most fiery post-sunset glow. But now that the sun's been down a bit and we no longer have that hue from dusk, we're actually starting to see some of the stars coming out. You can see also the planes taking off from the airport, going up in the sky. And you know, it was a warm day today in North Georgia. We hit 84 for our high temperature. This is today's almanac. That is more than 10 degrees above our average high for this time of year, which is 73. And what we're talking about today is a change in the pattern for tomorrow. It was warm today. Yes, we were not quite to the record, but we were abnormally warm for this time of year. And we're going to take things back down to reality for tomorrow. And the reason why is we're tracking, I'm calling it a mostly dry cold front, because we are going to see some cloud cover moving in overnight tonight. A very, very slight chance there could be a stray shower somewhere here or there. But what this cold front is going to do is bring the temperatures back down close to average for a couple of days. That cool down, so to speak, is not going to last for long, though, because I'm expecting highs to get much hotter as we head into the weekend. So here's the big picture temperature pattern change on our temperature map. This is actually looking, for those of you who might be like weather nerds out there, this is looking at 850 millibar temperature. So we're looking about a mile above the surface. And this is where we take out, as we go through each day, we heat up at the ground and we cool down at night, right? Well, when you go up to that next level in the atmosphere, we see a temperature inversion, so we get to take that out of the equation. This just shows us what the atmosphere is doing with our temperature pattern. Is it going to be warmer than average, cooler than average? And you don't see that spike going hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold between day and nighttime, because we don't have that at this level. So warm temperatures now. This is the forecast track for our temperature pattern as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday. And you can see we've got this kind of dip in the jet stream, cooler air coming in. So it's not going to be that cold outside, but it will be noticeably cooler for the day tomorrow. And what brings all of these changes is our next cold front. And that cold front right now has been pushing through the Ohio Valley. And you can see even behind it a wraparound moisture producing a few isolated showers there across the northern plains in the Midwest, the Corn Belt. But in front of it, that's a big area in a severe thunderstorm watch. So that includes parts of eastern Kentucky back through West Virginia over the Appalachians. And then as those storms are getting east of the mountains, also have the potential to become severe on the western side of the Washington, D.C. metro. Now, the storms here are moving from west to east. It's all going with where the energy with the storm system is. So what we don't expect to transpire tonight is a risk of severe weather here across North Georgia. I wanted to show you the severe outlook for today so you can see kind of the path that these storms are taking. The Storm Prediction Center actually just updated this within the last 30 minutes. Earlier it was showing a level 3 threat of severe weather. Now they've started to scale back some of that. So in yellow there's still a level 2 threat. But that cold front, even though it does not bring us severe weather and most of us don't even get rain, it does pass through North Georgia as well late tonight into tomorrow morning. And for that reason, you're going to notice tomorrow morning on your drive to work a lot more clouds. It also might have just enough moisture with it to squeeze out a couple of stray showers. We're talking light sprinkles for the most part. I think if we were to see any, quote, thunderstorms, those would be northwest of our area and kind of falling apart as they get into our region. So here's the forecast track at 4 a.m. You see those clouds streaming in, southwest breeze ahead of it, and then we see a little bit of green on the map. This is the HER model, the high resolution rapid refresh model, and this is showing you some spotty light showers first thing tomorrow morning. This model is the most excited about our rain chances of any of the models that I'm looking at. So I'm showing you this as kind of a worst case scenario with who sees rain, and it's not a lot of people. So a sprinkle or two possible. For the most part, this brings added clouds tomorrow morning. The air is so dry at the surface it evaporates before it reaches the ground. And then watch what happens with the cloud cover by the afternoon. We start the day with the clouds, but as we get into lunchtime, we see those clouds clearing out in northwest Georgia and then gradually pushing their way out of our area altogether for the afternoon. So we will start your Tuesday with clouds. We will finish the day with sunshine. And what you'll also notice your Tuesday are the winds picking up as well. I'm actually going to back this model up a bit and show you as we go into the afternoon tomorrow. look at what the winds are doing here. So this is 10:30 in the morning. Those winds starting to pick up, at times gusting 25, 30 miles per hour. And that's kind of how they're going to stay as we go into the peak of the afternoon. Some of those wind gusts, 25, 30 miles per hour. And then once the sun sets, we should start to see them coming down a little bit. So breezy winds will build in Tuesday. That's going to be ushering a drop in the temperature, ushering a drop in the humidity. And with the ground drying out for a couple of days, lower humidity and dry, it's not a lot of sunshine, we'll put it that way. The fire danger goes up again tomorrow afternoon. That's something we haven't talked a lot about in the last 2 weeks. We talked about it a lot in March, but we've had some better rounds of rain. But now the last few days have been dry for us. We haven't picked up any rain since those severe hailstorms that we had at the Thursday evening time frame. But that'll be something we talk about tomorrow, the fire danger risk increasing. Low temperatures tonight. Clouds are moving in late, so temperatures cool off quickly this evening, but then they kind of flatline late tonight because of the clouds moving in. We'll drop down to a low of 61 in the city, outlying suburbs, mid and upper 50s, even the mountains. I mean, that's not cold for this time of year by any stretch of the imagination. Tuesday planner, clouds to start the day. Those clouds thin out around the midday hours here in Atlanta, and then we'll be up in the low 70s in the afternoon. So noticeably cooler tomorrow than today. Really not cold for this time of year, but you're just going to get back that crisp factor outside as we get towards Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning, a lot more than what things felt like outside today. So we'll top out about 71 in Atlanta, a couple of upper 60s in the northeastern suburbs, and then for the North Georgia mountains, mid 60s for high temperatures. Now, by tomorrow night, though, as the skies clear, the winds calm down a little bit, this is going to be one of those recipes for a lot of radiational cooling, meaning the heat from the day escapes the atmosphere. So look at how chilly we get by Wednesday morning. This is back in that, like, if you're a winter lover and you really hate when we get these stretches of like really warm days in the spring, you're like, yeah, just leave it cool a little bit longer. Wednesday morning is like the morning for you this week. We get down to 45 in the city, outlying suburbs, low 40s, kind of feeling like how it was over the weekend, and few 30s show up in far north and northwest Georgia. I don't think we're really in frost territory here, but you'll have that nice crisp feeling. You'll need the jacket again Wednesday morning, and Wednesday afternoon about the same with our temperature, about 70 degrees, but then yeah, the warm switch kind of turns back on again. So we have a cool snap coming in. It's not going to last for very long. Tuesday and Wednesday, we drop those temperatures back just below average to around the low 70s. And then Thursday, 77, 83 on Friday. And we head into the holiday weekend. And oh, we got mid 80s back. So it's going to be a warm, mostly dry weekend as well. And that means for anybody who has plans Easter Sunday or egg hunts outside or a lot of festivals as well across the area, that's going to be looking good. Now, meanwhile, this map shows you the comparison of where things are active and not active over the next 7 days. And we're seeing once again this frontal boundary setting up. It keeps sending waves of low pressure. This time it's positioned west of where the previous kind of episodes of heavy rain were by, maybe 2 hours drive. Not by a lot. Some of the same areas are going to get heavy rain, but it's not everywhere. Remember, the last one we had was really heavy in this region, up through here, up through the Ohio Valley. That's where they got the lion's share of the rain. Well, this time we're going to nudge it north and west by a little bit. So some of those areas will get another 3 to 5 inches of rainfall. But as we zoom in on this map, you can see in North Georgia, rain over the next 7 days is going to be really scarce. We're not looking at a widespread rain chance tomorrow with our front passing through. Most of us will not even pick up a trace of rain. And then after that, I think we're going to have to wait till next Monday to maybe see that front wiggling into our area a little bit. But we will see setting up again the end of the week. We just get this really big heat dome building over North Georgia. And then on the outskirts of that heat is where all the active weather is, repeated rounds of rain, repeated rounds of storms, and we're just not going to see that playing out. So weekend outlook, what does it look like? Honestly, this is almost like a replica. Move it like 200 miles north and west, but it's almost a replica of what happened at the beginning of April. Remember the beginning of April? We had, I think, 89. We set a record in Atlanta. One of the days, it almost feels a lot like that, where we're stuck under the heat dome, and then on the outskirts we get all those non-stop rounds of rain and storms. So by that, I'm talking about our weekend forecast. 80s for Saturday, 80s for Sunday. In fact, I'm putting just general 80s in the picture. I think in Atlanta, in the metro, we're going to be mid 80s both afternoons. It's going to be hot. You know, if you're going to an Easter sunrise service, I actually think it looks quite nice outside because it won't be so hot. Sunrise is at 7:01 on Easter morning. I've got a low that morning of 62 in the city. So feeling comfortable, right? But if you're waiting to, you know, do your church service, maybe doing an outdoor church service middle of the day, well, things are going to be heating up through the 70s and then 80s by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Remember, as you're going out and about and doing all this activity this weekend, don't forget to put the sunscreen on. People think, oh, it's just April. It's, you know, it's not that warm. Well, it doesn't matter what the temperatures are. If you get the blue sky days, we can get our UV index this time of year 8, 9, or above. So you can get a sunburn if you do not put on sunscreen. I am a testament to that. Got a sunscreen. I was outside at the Big Shanty Festival 2 hours this weekend, put sunscreen on my face and everything. I forgot my shoulders and I came home with a sunburn. Okay, we're on streaming. That's why I'm a little bit long-winded here. Atlanta pollen count, let's talk about this. We are past the really bad part of pollen season, but we're not done with tree pollen season altogether. Pollen count today, 512. Tree pollen still in the high range. It's still oak and pine, but we're getting towards the end of it. We're getting towards the end of it. Not done altogether. If you're a pollen sufferer, you can still feel it when you're out doing yard work or something. If you're outdoors for long enough, especially if you're, you know, digging around in the yard, all that pollen comes up and really, you know, smacks you in the face, so to speak. But we're not seeing the extremely high pollen counts the way we were. Remember that last weekend of March, we had top two ever highest pollen counts for Atlanta. 6,000, 4,000, 7,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 4,000. Then last Monday, we had severe weather, right? We had a 2-day rainy, stormy stretch. And since then, we had a temperature cool down. The numbers have been trying to come back up. We got 1,000 there, another 1,000 there, but they haven't been able to spike up the exact same way that things did before. And I really believe that that's because as we look outside, we see a lot of things that are green, but a lot of the trees that flower and pollinate and that, you know, that yucky oak stuff that comes off the male part of the oak trees, that's all like done. It's on the ground. It's done. They're done with their pollination, their fun that they do. So I think we're done with the peak of pollen season. But it doesn't mean if you're an allergy sufferer, you're done with suffering from allergies. These high levels, we can still see them through the end of April. But the yellow pollination on everything from those pine trees is kind of, you know, kind of done with that. There's still a little bit of a film you'll see on the cars and stuff, but it's not as awful, downright awful as it was about a week and a half ago. Okay, with all that being said, let's recap everything we just yacked about in your 7-day forecast, okay? So tomorrow, cloud cover in the morning. We've got that slight 10% chance of a shower, especially north of I-20. We start with clouds. That's going to be thinning out. Sunshine's back for the afternoon, 71 degrees. Wednesday, nice crisp and chilly start, 70 in the afternoon. Thursday, another crisp and chilly start. And we start warming things up, 77. Beautiful day Thursday, just noticeably warmer outside. And then we get to Good Friday and the weekend, and things get very warm. We'll run 10 degrees above average on Friday, Saturday 86, Easter Sunday 86, and then Monday might be the next day that we have a chance of some showers across part of the region. Some of our models have it, others are being a lot more restrictive on rain coming into our area. There's a long way between here and there. But what I can say with confidence is that if you have grass that needs watering this week, water it, because Mother Nature probably not going to give you any substantial rainfall in the next 7 days. It does look like the pattern for us next week could be a little bit more active around the middle of the week. We might see the light switch or the pendulum swing in the other way, or we get an active period for several days with a few different rounds of showers, maybe some thunderstorms, but this week is not that week. Cooling down the next couple of days, then heating up through the weekend, and it does look like for whatever your outdoor plans may be this weekend, dry weather will stick around. All right, that is your live 9 o'clock update here on 11 Live Plus. I'm meteorologist Melissa Nord and for Chief Meteorologist Chris Holcomb. Hey, and we'll see you on the news tonight at 11. I'm updating my forecast, updating my graphics, and I will see you with new data coming up tonight at 11 o'clock.